All righty. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome to your first webinar of the year by Quid. We have an incredible and insightful conversation for you all today, from trends to transformation, outcomes-focused strategies for modern commerce. We're going to be diving into this topic with our amazing guest today, Paul Hornby, and I'm going to just give you an introduction in a second, but I'd like to tell you all what it is that we're focused on. A little bit of housekeeping as you guys are coming in. Make sure that your mics are muted. Also, please, if you have any questions, drop them into the question box or the Q&A box at the bottom if it has a little question mark on it. This will be recorded, so we will be sending it out. So look out for that. And I believe those are all the things. So, and if you're new to Quid, I'd just like to tell you a little bit about Quid. Here at Quid, we help your company, your brand, stay ahead of trends, and we're all about outcomes. We want to give you the outcomes, the insights that help you drive the decisions that you need in your business, and particularly today, we'll be focused on commerce or e-commerce. And whether it's, spotting the next big trend, launching products that truly connect with your customers, or adapting to your changing demand, we want to make sure that you are always a step ahead. So again, from e-commerce to merchandising across B2B, B2C, D2C, we help you understand what you need to capture the opportunities so that you can shape the future of your industry. So today, we have Paul here. My name is Ashwarya. I'm the product marketing manager here at Quid. And a little bit about Paul is Paul has nearly 20 years of experience across e-commerce, digital, and technology, and he has led multiple multidisciplinary, teams in pure play, that from the Very Group, multi-channel, Matlan, and businesses across regulated and unregulated sectors. He has extensive experience driving digital growth and technology transformation, and has been responsible for a wide spectrum of areas, including digital strategy, performance marketing, product management, UX, engineering, insights, analytics, everything. So Paul, we are so excited to have you. I'd love to hear from your own words a little bit about you, your background, and anything else that you'd like to share. Kick us off.
Well, firstly, thank you for having me. And I think you've just done a better job of introducing me than I can do of introducing myself. But as you say, I've got nearly 20 years of experience, and pretty much all of that has been across e-commerce, digital, and technology. I love building high-performing teams who deliver great outcomes for customers, and therefore deliver great outcomes for colleagues and shareholders. And I love the intersection of art and science. That's the beauty of e-commerce for me, how you can use technology and data, but then also understand some of the qualitative behaviors around how we shop and what drives customer action. So that's me. Really looking forward to the conversation, looking forward to getting stuck into it today. I'm really impressed with what the Quid team are doing in this space.
Amazing. Yeah, let's hop right in. I'm so excited to, pick your brain and learn a little bit more about what you can share with us. So hopping right in, like in your experience, how do you think that data-driven decision-making has transformed the retail landscape? And why do you think that it's more important now than ever for brands to be thinking like this?
Yeah, as I've progressed through my career and data's become more accessible, it has led to significant changes. I think the first change is the democratization of data, as I would refer to it as, has really challenged the role of the hippo. And when I say the hippo, I mean the highest paid person in the organization. As retail transitioned from bricks and mortar to online, many of the decisions being made were based upon historical retail fundamentals, typically driven by senior professionals who were brilliant retailers, but was finding their way in the e-commerce space along with the rest of us. As data started to create a level of transparency that we've never seen before, and the growth of experimentation, allowed businesses to, let the data inform us rather than leaving it down to opinion. It allowed retailers to be far more factual. I think, in short, in the past, a lot of retail businesses would make decisions based upon gut or their personal experience. And sometimes those things would work, sometimes those things would not work. And obviously, when those things don't work, it can be quite painful and quite expensive. One of the big changes for making data-driven decisions is that you can test something, you can let the data decide, you can let your customer inform, and it helps retail businesses try and dodge the bullets, really, by allowing the data to inform the choices that they make. I think, secondly, retail businesses have had ever-increasing data sets for years, but have struggled to successfully extract actionable insight from all of that data. They can just drown in the volume of data. And there's a big difference between having data and generating actionable insight, as you know. I think the growth of machine learning and AI has allowed more businesses to extract insight from this data, spot trends, decipher insights from large data sets, whereas this type of maturity was previously reserved for just a handful of big players who had deep enough pockets. So, in short, two big changes. One, data has challenged the role of the hippo and allows organizations to be more data-led. And two, the maturity of things like AI and ML have allowed more retail businesses to mine big data sets and yield insight. Why do I think it's more important now than ever before? I think retail is more competitive now than it's ever been, Aishwarya. And so, especially with the entrance of new businesses like Shein and Temu, who are doing this, who are data-led from the ground up, if you are not making data-driven decisions, you are really up against it. And in the macro climate that we're in, we all feel like we're up against it anyway as retailers. So I think utilizing your data wisely is one of the few tailwinds that retail businesses feel like they've got at this moment in time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And to what you said, it's like you almost can't afford not to
Yes.
think like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're not making data-driven decisions in 2025, to a certain extent, you're shooting into the dark, aren't you?
Correct. Correct. I love what you said, and kind of diving in a little bit deeper into that in terms of like retail businesses or brands. Like, what do you think from your experience of working with these people, these types of companies? Like, what are their current pain points, would you say? Biggest challenges that you've seen across like e-commerce businesses, or especially when it comes to understanding and predicting their customer needs?
Yeah. Well, like I've just said, at a macro level, and it differs in different parts of the world. But if I was going to be local to the UK, where I am at this moment in time, although a lot of this will translate globally, retail is tough. Especially in the UK at the moment, retailers are finding an awful lot of financial headwinds. Retailers are facing increasing costs of raw materials that will be impacting retailers globally. Retailers are facing into logistics costs that are far higher than they have been for years. We thought we suffered a big spike in terms of the spot rate for containers during lockdown, but we've had a resurgence of that in 2024 off the back of some like geopolitical issues, obviously, that we've seen across the world. We've seen increasing labor costs, all of which are just putting more and more cost into a retail business and costing them so much more to basically deliver the same service that they were, which massively squeezes margins, massively squeezes profits for retailers. And at the same time, as retailers are facing all of these macro financial headwinds, there's increasing competition from the likes of Shein and Temu, which is driving ever increasing customer expectations. So if it was going to wrap that up in a bow, retailers have got it tough at this moment in time, and it's costing retailers more than ever before to run their businesses. And at the same time, customers have got higher expectations than ever before. That's a tough balance for a retail business to maintain. That said, I think the retailers who are winning are typically those who deeply understand their customer and constantly provide a range of products, services, and experiences that the customers want and or need. Because keeping your offering super relevant keeping your experience super easy, removing as much friction from the shopping experience. I always think about it as, what are the jobs that I love the jobs to be done framework, Ashwarya. I love the idea of thinking about, who are my customers? What jobs do they come to me to successfully complete? So really thinking about how you can make that as easy for customers as possible in a world where consumers are more time poor than ever before, I think is the best way of earning true loyalty from your existing customers, and B, doing a good job of recruiting high quality new customers, both of which are the best way of facing into all of the macro headwinds that we've just spoken about. But it is easier said than done. Getting things right for your customer takes investment, and maintaining your investment levels is arguably tougher than ever against that macro backdrop that we've just spoken about.
Yeah, exactly. And, this leads me to kind of say more about, this is exactly what we do here at Quid, but I'd rather not tell you, and rather would want to hear it from you, especially like you've been here with us for a few months now. And so I would like to hear from your lens, coming from outside looking in to a platform like Quid. Like, how do you think us as a partner and a tool like Quid could help solve those exact problems you just highlighted?
Yeah, I mean, like we mentioned at the top of the call, I've spent nearly 20 years in retail. And so, I feel like I have a relatively good grasp of the type of capability that helps retailers do their jobs well. And that is typically the type of capability that allows a retailer to show up well for their customer. I've been really, really interested by Quid's market-based merchandising capability. And as I've got to know it more over the past few months, I really do see it as a tool that retailers can use to show up really well for their customers. I think Quid's market-based merchandising capability helps retailers keep the finger on the pulse, basically, of what's really going on in the wider world. And in a world that moves as quickly as the one that we live in today does, being able to try and keep abreast of hot products, hot brands, hot trends, I think is more important now than it ever has been. From my experience from the retail businesses I've been a part of and the ones that I know, retailers are typically good at evaluating the data that they extract from their own digital journey. So how efficient is their own funnel? Where do customers land on a site? What do they search for? What marketing channels have customers come from? But they're not as good at pulling wider market context and making it actionable. So they may understand their share of wallet, and they may understand, general like market traffic, but really getting under the skin of what is going out there, what's in the mindset of a customer, what are the new trends, what are the new products, what is your specific cohort of customers loving, but also what are new cohorts of customers who you don't talk to today but could talk to today, what are they loving? I think Quid can plug this gap by mining a vast array of social data to keep a retailer up to date, like I've just said, on the latest products, the latest brands, the latest trends, and also keeping an eye on competitors. The reason why I think this is super exciting is I think this creates the opportunity for real competitive advantage for the retailer, helping them to ensure that they show up well for the products, brands, and trends both new and existing customers are looking for, and preventing them from missing the boat. In short, I think this gives a retailer the best chance of providing the high level of relevance customers demand today. And at its most simple level, helps a retailer be a good retailer. Like, if you cut away all the technology, if you cut away all the noise, like, what is the job of a retailer? The job of a retailer is to know who their customer is, know what their customer loves, know the types of products that they want, and provide them in a really easy and, ideally engaging experience. The world moves so quickly today that it's increasingly difficult to keep really on top of what it is that customers want. I think Quid plugs that gap. Previous buying cycles can take 12 to 18 months. The world can change every 12 to 18 minutes. So I think Quid can play a really good example of allowing retail businesses to keep the finger on the pulse and keep trading their business almost in real time. The other thing I like about Quid's offering is that I personally believe it's got a higher likelihood of driving full price sales. we all know retail has become a race to the bottom with macro pressures driving a culture of price reductions in a bid to capture customer attention and drive sales. We also know from our own personal shopping experience that if you find the hot product, Stanley Cup, if you find the hot brand, if you find the hot trend, last year, Brat Summer, Quiet Luxury, Mob Wife, and you want that, and you want to buy into that, you just want it. You just want it. You just feel like you need that product now. I think you're less price sensitive. You just want the quickest way of acquiring that product. I think what Quid's market-based merchandising capability can do in that space is help brands and retailers know what are the hot products, brands, and trends. Help them work out, are they showing up well for it? Are they building the right stories? Are they shouting about it properly throughout the digital journey? And you can see a world where this just creates a stream of quick wins that lets buyers and marketers chase incremental full price sales in this market, and that'll just be gold for anyone. So that's what I really love about it. I know that's a long-winded answer, but it's intentional because I think there's a lot to what you guys are doing. I actually think it's really, really smart. And if I was going to encapsulate it, what retail businesses are desperate for more than anything right now is like full price, high intent sales. And I think the market-based merchandising capability starts to open the tap on that.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate the depth there. And that is exactly what we are equipped to do and help your brand. And just kind of like summarizing everything that you said, we are that outcomes partner and we want to help your retail brand win. So thank you for diving in so detailed. But kind of like also what you mentioned a lot of nuances about the different things that retail companies face and like the things that they need to understand their customers. And so I kind of want to touch on that like nuance of the retailer of offline versus online retailers, like as modern commerce is evolving
Yeah.
quickly. How do you see, and you touched on this a little bit, but if you could kind of dive in a little bit deeper of like, how do you see the role of data in shaping the future of online and offline retail for these commerce brands?
Yeah. As the volume of data that a retailer or a customer has access to, and also as both technology improves and the level of digital, particularly mobile, we live in a mobile first world. As digital/mobile adoption continues to increase, I just think the line between digital and physical will get ever blurrier. We've historically referred to it as omni-channel, but at its core, it's just great retailing, isn't it? It's like I said before, it's understanding who your customer is. It's giving them a great experience, regardless of where, when, and how they interact with your brand. I think that the evolution of data will just allow that to be an ever more seamless experience. You can really start to visualize more and more common a world of a customer being able to pick up and drop off if they want to shop via social, shop in a bricks and mortar store, shop via email, shop via voice commerce. The maturity of data and technology is just going to continue to make all of those worlds merge more and more together.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, especially the blending and the mobiles and also
Yeah.
just the pace of the world. So I love that.
Yeah.
And in general, what are your overall thoughts of the evolution of social in the commerce landscape?
Uh, I think social will continue to transform retail in two main ways. I think businesses like Quid, we've just touched on it. Businesses like Quid are now able to make sense of almost unlimited amounts of data and sentiment that exists across social networks, allowing them to create a constant stream of actionable insight that allows retailers to keep the finger on the pulse of what customers really want in a way they haven't been able to do before. If you think about customers' lives now are on TikTok, are on Instagram, are on YouTube, and they are a far more accurate and relevant portrayal of the brand's products, services, trends that people love. Some retail businesses have obviously tried to stay close to that, and they'll do that in a variety of ways. But I don't really think we've ever had the technology and the capability to mine that data and turn it into actionable insights that retailers can use. And like I said before, a wide variety of retailers do that. In the past, it was the top 1% retailers who had deep enough pockets and the energy to go and try and mine all of that social data, make sense of it all, and then use it to inform their buying strategies and their marketing strategies to show up well. I think social's only going to grow, and the emergence of capability like the market-based merchandising capability that Quid has built, I think will create a tighter linkage between social and e-commerce than we've ever seen before, because brands will be able to interact with it more. I think secondly, we will see more of what I refer to as funnel collapse. So in short, more of the transaction will happen within social as well. So not only on point one will brands be able to use social data to inform what they do on their own digital experiences, there would be so much more examples of customers not even getting to a brand. It all happens in the walled garden. We will all think historically of the funnel as awareness, consideration, purchase, loyalty. And we probably historically think of the social platforms as awareness, and then they've started to knock down into consideration. We had a little bit with Instagram checkout, which never really took off, where they were trying to get purchase. TikTok shops nailed it.
Yeah.
TikTok shop has nailed that. So now we've seen real funnel collapse where you can see the entire funnel existing in these walled gardens. I think we will see more of that. I think we really will. And I think this is going to result in brands seeing their customers less frequently. And that increases the importance of using external sources of data to stay close to customer needs and wants, and the importance of building an architecture that can seamlessly integrate with some of these social platforms, because all of a sudden it's all happening somewhere else. The retailer could end up being a product feed and a set of APIs, because all the action could be happening elsewhere.
Right. And I think there's also a YouTube shop I recently heard of, or they're building something out like that. So you got to go where your customers are, and you have to stay on top of it.
Yeah, I mean, Google, if you go onto the SERP now, obviously with shopping and some of the bits that they're building, they are obviously increasingly moving into consideration as well as, and then it's going to go into purchase. You just know that. I would be amazed if Meta don't really try and turbocharge Instagram checkout or something similar. I would be amazed if they don't. So yeah, I see social having a massive impact on the commerce landscape over the next few years.
100%. Yeah. And so kind of like moving into if I am a retailer and I'm trying to figure out how to move forward, how do you think leading retailers or companies that are maybe stuck, like how do you think they could differentiate themselves, because it is a crowded market, especially now, like how would they differentiate themselves?
Well, I'll try and come at it from two ways. I'll come at it, how do leading software companies like Quid differentiate themselves, and how would a leading retail business maybe try and give two angles. I think a leading software company, how do they differentiate themselves in what you rightly say is an increasingly crowded market? I think e-commerce companies, software companies, need to show empathy for the challenges that retailers are facing, and understand that some of those macro challenges heavily influence how, why, and when they can close a software deal. There are so many retail businesses that wish they could do so much more than their budgets currently allow, and then a lot of the time their budgets are restricted by the macro environment. More importantly, it's never been more critical for a software business to be laser focused and crystal clear on how their solution will offer tangible incremental benefit for customers, colleagues, and shareholders. I think for Quid, there's very few retailers who would argue that getting a constant stream of actionable insight on hot brands, hot trends, and hot products is really interesting. Quid's job is to show that it's also extremely useful and will drive incremental value and will be worth the effort and will just help them be a better retailer. I think to flip it the other way, how do retailers cut through such a crowded market? I think it goes back to what we said before. I always believe in the brilliant basics, Ashwarya, and I think, at times of challenge, doubling down on the retail fundamentals of knowing your customer, building a range that is right for your customer, being responsive to the changes and changing needs of your customer, offering the type of product, services, and experiences that build high levels of loyalty so that you can retain customers and efficiently recruit new ones are key. But how do you do that in the modern world? I think you do that in the modern world by having a great grasp of your data, being data driven and making data driven decisions, having a single view of your customer, having the most rounded view of the market, but also making intelligent technology decisions. Don't make tech decisions for tech's sake. Make sure all of your technology decisions are very much focused on the needs of your customer and your strategy and commercial outcomes. And I think you've got to try and double down in those areas. Again, easier said than done. But if you are a retailer selling somebody else's branded stuff, which you can buy in 100 different retail outlets today, why does a customer want to come to you? Like, that should be the number one question that brands ask themselves. And unless they can build a compelling reason for customers to come to them, they're not going to come. So definitely agree. Crowded market, but I think it's crowded for both software businesses and retail businesses.
I love that. And it kind of like what you mentioned about in the beginning is like having empathy for your customer and like really knowing them. And then comes like that emotional piece, make data backed decisions from the actual insights that you need and want to know that customer to have that empathy. So I love what you said. So in kind of like we talked a lot about data and how important it is for retailers and e-commerce businesses. It's a non-negotiable at this point. Is there anything else that you would say for businesses, regardless of their size, like ensure that they're prioritizing these, data insights in their strategic decisions? Like we're talking about having the outcomes that they need and being very outcomes oriented in general. So how do they ensure they're prioritizing the right data and the right insights?
Yeah, I mean, you've just said it. In my view, like I'm completely aligned with you. Prioritizing data in 2025 is a non-negotiable. It is more important than ever. If you think about everything that we've just spoken about, it distills down to the importance of focusing on outcomes and not outputs. It's so easy for a business to focus on, we're going to build this thing, we're going to do this thing, we're going to explore this thing, we're going to integrate this thing, we're going to send these emails. They're all outputs. But in a tough market, it's more important than ever to focus on the outcome. And it's hard to measure your outcome if you're not focused on your data. A good friend of mine talks about data as DNA, data, insight, and action. He leans on the second letter of insight to create his DNA. But and when the way, it's really elegant. I love when he framed data as DNA to me, and then explained what he meant by it and why that was the way in which an organization should think about data. It's so simple, but I think it's so powerful. The D being data is just all about making sure you've got the brilliant basics right, which every business needs. Ensure you are storing your data efficiently and in a compliant manner. Have you got the right data lake or data warehouse? Do you got the right pipelines in place? In short, can you capture and safely store all of the data that you need and then access it in a performant way? Do you have all of your data deletion and retention policies in place? If you're in the EU and to an extent the UK, are you adhering to GDPR or whatever other data rules there are? That is the focus of data, like making sure all underlying plumbing is right so that you can capture, store, and access data. The N insight is all about ensuring you can then extract actionable insight from all this data. So like we said before, retailers for years have been good at capturing data within their own world. And it may be in a variety of formats. Some of it may be in Excel, some of it may be in databases. The more mature businesses have started to build warehouses and data lakes, and they can fill these lakes with reams and reams of data. But they really struggle to take actionable insight from it, which really helps them know those nuggets of information that will drive incremental value for a customer or a colleague or a shareholder. So the insight part is making sure you can do that. Can you extract actionable insight from the data? Can your people easily and efficiently self-serve and glean information that will allow them to make informed decisions? Does your organization believe in your data? Do you have a single source of the truth? In a Quid example, I love when we spoke about it before. Like I love some of the trend information that Quid produces. Last year, a trend like quiet luxury off the back of the Succession program. A lot of brands will be selling the types of products that would fall under that trend. And there's a lot of customers who are out there who are interested in the TV show and interested in this trend of quiet luxury, finding high quality garments that haven't got logos on, and will go out and look for them. There'll be so many retail businesses who've got those products but aren't merchandising their site to show up for a trend like that. Retailers probably, between either what they've got on site or what they could find off site, they could probably try and get some of that information to say, actionable insight tells us we need to do a better job of showing up, but they just struggle to do it. Quid can put all of those pieces together and generate that constant stream of actionable insight of what customers are looking for, because sometimes it's hidden in your sales data or it's not even there. You need that market context. And then the final part of DNA is all about action. So once you've got your data, once you've extracted your insight, then you can use it to make changes in your action systems. So what do I mean by action systems? Your website, your app, your CRM systems, your email, push, whatever it may be, offsite, paid social, paid search. You can use that actionable insight to define audiences, define outcomes, back to the point we've just made before, and then define strategies and execute them. And that is where you really create a step change in the relevance of the experience for a customer and unlock incremental value. So it almost ties back to a question that we said before, but to be a competitive retailer in 2025, to cut through that noise and that really competitive landscape without having those key pillars nailed, it's like bringing a spoon to a gunfight, isn't it? Because if you're up against retail businesses who are doing that, especially when you're fighting with businesses like Shein, who've nailed the integration of data. Shein now, as soon as Shein's on-site browse search information is directly tied into the factories and the velocity at which factories produce garments. If they start to see an increase in interest in a certain category, they'll produce more. If they see a decrease, they'll produce less. If that's what you're up against, that's why I think it's in 2025, it's a non-negotiable to have these things in place.
I love all of what you said. And just being like conscious of time, I could sit here and talk to you about this for forever because it's so fascinating. It's so insightful, especially in this world of retail and commerce. But I do want to be mindful that we do have some questions in the chat.
Right.
So I'll just ask you one more last final question, and then we can take some questions in the chat. So if you in the audience have more, just drop them in the Q&A box. But with all this talk about trends and future, I would love to know, just curious about, any trends you're fascinated about going into 2025, any things that you're personally most excited about, especially in the commerce world, or any other trends in general.
Yeah, I mean, it's an obvious answer based upon the conversation that we've had, but I'm intrigued to see where AI goes this year.
Yep.
I feel like 2024 was really the year that we saw a proliferation of use cases exploding across the industry. And I'm looking forward to seeing which ones of them stand the test of time. I think we all know now that, AI and machine learning is the real deal and will be able to offer real value in terms of value generation and optimization. there's so much effort, there's so much investment going into it that it's only natural that some will stand the test of time and provide a really robust ROI. Some will fall by the wayside. The speed at which the market's developing is frightening. So when you consider that this is the least mature AI will ever be, like the future opportunities are mind blowing. So even though it is an easy answer, it's definitely the one I'm the most intrigued to watch develop over the next 12 months.
I love it. Yeah, I've never heard it said like that. It's the earliest or the least developed AI will be. So
Yeah. Yeah.
cool. Well, we're gonna hop in to some Q&A. Maybe we can try to make this as rapid fire as possible. So we have, can you talk a little bit about your processes, what they look like at the Very Group, maybe some examples of your challenges in identifying trends and implementing your findings into your strategy?
Yeah, so let me tell you a little bit more about the Very Group. So the Very Group was a 2.2 billion pound pure play business, multi-category business. So we operated in the UK and Republic of Ireland. We pretty much sold everything apart from books and food. And so when you've got that breadth of SKU count and that breadth of categories, building your range, getting the right range for customers. We also had to balance between own branded goods and branded goods. And then, building the right content and marketing activity to align with that and keep up with the ever evolving trends is obviously really tough. I think the challenges that the Very Group would face in that space would be similar to what many retail businesses face, which is your buying cycles are typically quite long. You will typically build your range over a year in advance. You'll think about how big you want that to be, what brands you want to have in your range, what products you want to have in your range. You will raise your purchase orders, and then you will obviously start shipping the goods all around the world. You will build a marketing plan. You'll build a trade or events plan, which thinks about the main stories that you're going to tell to, shine a light and illuminate the products within your range. And then obviously the more products and categories you have, the more tension there is in your marketing plan, because everybody wants their category to have a light shone on it. That environment makes it super tough to then keep really on top of smaller trends. And I think where Quid can win is, and Aishwarya, please correct me if you disagree, but I think where Quid can really play a role is helping you understand not massive opportunities like there is a completely new product category, because a retailer will typically know if there is a completely new product category. A retailer will know that. I think it's getting into the more granular detail within your category. So if you're in beauty, understanding that there is an emerging trend around velvet lip, if you and then thinking about, okay, well, how is that growing? Is that going to be a category that our customer set will be interested in? Would that allow us to talk to a new customer set? Do we have the right products to support that today? If not, should we do something about it? I think that was the problem and opportunity at the Very Group, where the buying cycles can be relatively rigid and probably based off a longer period of time. Whereas what I think Quid can do is allow organizations to more invest what I refer to as they're open to buy. So like the budget that they've got left to buy new products in season in a more agile way, but making sure, like we said throughout the call, the buying teams and the marketing teams can keep a finger on the pulse of what's really hot, what customers are really looking for, to ensure that their plan isn't just what it was when they designed it 6 months ago and is the most relevant that the plan can be on that particular day.
Thank you for such a thorough answer. Hopefully, and I love the blending of the Quid and how we actually support, but also your experience at the Very Group as well. So hopefully to this person that answered your question. The next three, let's see. So what's your take on retail commerce and its application outside of fashion or collectibles?
By retail commerce, I think if you mean just e-commerce, look, I think e-commerce is applicable to pretty much all categories. Even at the Very Group, we sold fashion, homeware, beauty, toys, games, electricals. Like I say, we pretty much sold all product categories apart from books and food, which obviously you can also buy online from everywhere else. I think Amazon have proven that there's not much that you can't sell online. And I think the differences come in things like your consideration cycles. So if you are going to buy a $50 t-shirt online, the consideration cycle for that is probably far less than if you're going to buy a $5,000 TV. You're going to want to think about it. I always think about when a customer's making a purchase online, they want to make an informed purchase decision, and they want the mental barriers to purchase to be answered. So if I'm buying a t-shirt, I want to know how much is it, what's it made of, what's the fit, what's the return, what's the material, and then I can tick them, buy it. And if it's $50, then even if I've got 3 of those 5, I'll take a flyer on it. If I'm spending $5,000 on a TV, I've probably got a lot more on that mental barriers to purchase that I need to tick. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but I think retail commerce is obviously a no-brainer across all areas. I think Quid's market-based merchandising can also work the same. We've spoken about it ourselves. You think about the different trends when it comes to things like holiday decorations at Christmas time, makeup, different beauty, fashion, homeware, different trends for how people are decorating their houses, their gardens. Everybody wants to follow a trend. And the thing I love about Quid is the potential to help a brand identify a trend before it becomes a trend and get in front of it, so that a brand can be seen as an authoritative voice around a brand or a trend, rather than someone jumping on the trend at the 11th hour, which doesn't look as credible.
We give you the time and the space to actually action on it and capitalize on it. So
Exactly that. Exactly. Otherwise, you're on the back foot.
right. Okay, a couple more left. So you mentioned omni-channel retail earlier. Do you think that streaming commerce is a part of that play?
I'm going to guess by streaming commerce, it means live commerce, like live shopping. And if so, yes. I think live shopping now accounts for about 20% of all transactions in the Far East. It's definitely transitioning west. And I think TikTok plays a big role in that as well. There's so much of that going on in TikTok. But there's also a proliferation of platforms that are allowing brands to do it directly with their own digital interfaces. So yeah, I do. I don't know if I ever see it being as big as it has been in the Far East, but maybe TikTok is challenging that. But I do see it being playing a role. I think omni-channel will continue to increase the touch points. We used to think of omni-channel in essence as you've got a bricks and mortar store, you can ring somebody on a phone and you can go to a website. Then we started to add apps. Now we're adding social experience, like social platforms. Now we're adding live shopping. Realistically, we've got voice commerce as well. With the proliferation of home smart devices, people will probably be buying stuff in smart cars. They probably already are. So yeah, definitely. But again, all this comes down to what we said earlier. This is going to decentralize a lot of shopping, move it away from the retailer's own brand estate, which makes it even more important to A, have your data in place, and B, have a really good gauge of what's going on in the market.
Yep, I love that. And final question for you from the audience. With the concept of funnel collapse you
Yeah.
mentioned, why do you think TikTok succeeded and Instagram didn't?
It's a really good question. I wonder whether it was timing. I wonder whether a bit of it was timing. I wonder whether a bit of it was that when Instagram launched it, which was predominantly in the US, it never really got launched in the UK. But Instagram was still more image based. It wasn't as video based in terms of the types of content that somebody would interact with. And I just wonder whether the combination of TikTok being a really immersive video platform, and like we said on the previous question, also a live platform, so much of that created, it allowed influencers to talk one-to-one with a customer. And I think the other difference between TikTok Shop and Instagram was when you were going to buy on Instagram, you would in essence jump out into a web page. It was not too dissimilar to kind of jumping out to a retailer's web page. Whereas with TikTok, it's far more seamless. Again, think about what we said on earlier in the webinar. Um, One of the big things that you want to do for customers is take friction out of the shopping journey. I think TikTok have really done that. I've bought stuff on TikTok Shop where I've been on TikTok, and before I've known it, there's a grey parcel that's arrived at the house, and it's just so easy to do. So I think it's partly timing, partly technology, and I think TikTok Shop's great. Actually, I think they've really done a great job of nailing that journey, and see it continuing to go from strength to strength, to be honest.
I love that. Well, thank you for to the audience for your guys' questions. They're really insightful. We're coming to the top of the hour, so I just wanted to say thank you, Paul, so much for letting us pick your brain. Is there any one takeaway that you'd like to share with the group, or anything that's on top of your mind before we close?
I think just what we said before in 2025, really being on top of your data and using data to be data driven is a non-negotiable.
Absolutely. Well, we want to thank you. And from the Quid team, if you're new to Quid or if you've never heard about us, we are that partner. We're ready to, take on any of your questions regarding how do I make actionable decisions from all the data and the sea of data that we have in today's world. We have the tools, we have the services, and we want to help you drive those outcomes. And I'm just going to drop in the chat if you're ever curious about how we've worked with brands like Pepsi, or if you explore our site, we have a ton of examples of how we've worked with big brands across global brands, and helping them win. So we just want to thank you for being here. Paul, thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom. And feel free to, message us on LinkedIn. And if you're curious about working with us, you know where to find us. So thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Next time. Thank you. Bye.